Joining the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. This is Juana Amaria with Illinois WorkNet. Welcome to the webinar. I know people were asking what's going on with the sound. We usually mute you all until we get started. I want to go ahead and do a quick sound check. So up at the top of your screen, you're going to have a little guy. Go ahead and raise your hand if you can hear me. Lovely. Sounds like everything is working properly. The worst thing to mess you up is technical difficulties, right? So thanks again for participating today. We have a really great session for you and a couple different tips to kind of go through. And so I look forward to hearing your feedback and questions. I'm going to go through some housekeeping items. Up at the top, if you do end up having issues, sometimes servers are slow, or for instance, my computer sometimes lags, and so you can call the conference call number which is in the attention note up at the left-hand side of your screen. Beneath that, for those of you that are listening only via the webinar audio broadcast, you have the Q&A chat pod. This is where you can go ahead and post your questions. You can share tips. You can maybe answer somebody else's questions, and go ahead and also introduce yourselves. I've put some notes up there for you to be able to really share with your counterparts. Some of them are in a different place in their business process or development than you are, and so this is a great place to collaborate. Beneath that, ooh, very nice. I see Sylvia's picked purple. Beneath that, you have the file share, and you could select the file name, and then you could save it to your computer, and you'll have a new browser that pops up as you can either view the document or save it to your computer. Now, to the right-hand side of that, we have a couple questions for you, and this is a good place for us to gauge where you're at and where you're from and what you want to know out of all of this. And so a lot of you, I see 78% want just general knowledge about key performance indicators. So this will be really good. And what I wanted to kind of go through is a couple of the registration stats that we had you fill out as we were, oh, I don't know what happened there, sorry. Registration survey results. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. And these are the questions that we ask when you get registered for the webinar. And it's always fun for me to share. I'm just big on numbers in general, but it'll give you a really good idea of who's on and what they're interested in. And so the first question was, what industry does your business represent? And so I went ahead and added a couple different options for you here. And a lot of people are none of the above, which means that they're either individuals or startups or entrepreneurs. And then second to that are the nonprofits. So this is the local workforce areas and the service providers. We have a ton of people from manufacturing, and this is really thanks to Nisha and being able to promote that to their members. And a lot of the examples today will be based on that industry as well as some nonprofit examples. And then we have government. So these are all our state folks, and we're really glad to have them on, and especially through the SBDCs. Just really great to be able to use these types of resources to be able to service your local employers, your local businesses. Now underneath that, we have some folks from information technology, architecture, and construction, healthcare, a few people from transportation, and then energy and agriculture. Now beneath that, the question that I asked was, which of the following services are helpful for you as an individual? And you'll notice a lot of people marked setting financial goals, which is really important because this is a big component of the KPI presentation and what Kim will go through. Now, second to that, we wanted to know who you were, and so the question was, which of the following best describes your organization? And so we have tons of individuals, about an equal portion of business owners. We have some business service team members on here, and we as service providers. And I want to take this opportunity, if you are a business service team member or a local workforce area person that deals with business services, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the participants on the webinar. This is an opportunity for the local businesses that are on to know who to contact in their local area. And just so you know, through the Title I funds with Workforce Investment Act, we actually have funds that help you run your business. And so some of the services that are offered through your local business service teams are, think of them as your adjunct HR team. So they do the hiring and recruiting assessments, posting jobs for you. There's a lot of subsidized training programs that you would be available to participate in, and so they would walk you through that. So for instance, on-the-job training. And then there's a ton of business services that are available as well through our other network of small business development centers, and they do a fantastic job. And so you can find all of that through the Find a Location Near You option on Illinois WorkNet, and I'll add that link in a little bit. So beneath that question, I also have what size is your business, and so it gives us a really good idea of who we're talking to, because it does create some differences in the way that you would establish your goals and your indicators and the type of finances that you deal with. And so we have small businesses under 500 employees, about 48%, and then we have about 4% in the medium-sized businesses, as well as the 31% in what would be the governmental or entrepreneurial participants. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this so you can see the presentation. I'm going to switch screens on you so that we can have a bigger screen, and just kind of give you an idea of what we've gone through. So we're going to go through, we've done the introductions and whatnot, and I'll introduce Kim in a minute. And then we'll go through the key finance performance indicators, as well as the business resources available on Illinois WorkNet. And I'll do that through the chat and just send you some links as it becomes applicable through the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce Kim. This is us, and so if you're interested in reaching out or you have further questions, you have my information from the follow-up emails, and you'll have Kim's information. I've added it below here. Very happy to introduce her. So this is Kimberly Loftus, and we're very fortunate to have her on just based on the breadth of experience that she has, especially with the financial management strategy portion of her business, as well as just her interest and her passion in helping businesses become efficient and going to the next level. And so her background is as a CFO in services and a bunch of other accounting and finance stuff. And so with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Kim.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today on financial key performance indicators. So today, you will learn, by the end of this webinar, the definition of a financial key performance indicator, what that is, why they are important, and then how you can go through the steps to create your own financial key performance indicators for your business. So the first question is, what are key performance indicators? They're a method to measure performance. So in other words, they're a way to evaluate the success of a particular activity. And this particular activity, in other words, the key performance indicator, is the driver of your business performance, of what you view as an organization as being important. For example, if I was a nonprofit, something that might be important to me is the number of people needing my services served, or the percentage of the community served by my services. For a for-profit organization, it could be the growth rate of their sales or revenue by product. So there's different things, but it has to be something that's important or critical to your organization. Another important thing about key performance indicators is that they need to be short-term in nature. And what that means is if you wait too long to measure your indicator, it's going to be too late to take action on that item. So whatever you measure needs to be short-term in nature for you to be able to have some benefit from tracking it. So let's go through an example. If we have two grocery stores, Costco, who sells groceries in bulk, versus Jewel Osco, who sells groceries more on a single-use basis. Groceries are something everyone uses every day, but they're going to have different key performance indicators. The ones that will be the same between Costco and Jewel are the customer retention. For example, if I want to make sure that my customers are loyal to me, because groceries are something they use every day. So if they're not buying it from me, they're buying it from somewhere else. Both Costco and Jewel would also look at profitability per product. So that would also be important for them, because the more profitable each product is that they sell, the more profitable the overall organization will be. But then what about frequency of customer visits within a month? Is that important to both Costco and Jewel? I would say no, because Costco's customers buy in bulk. So they're not going to be coming as often, and so they might not be even coming every month. It might be every 2-3 months or more. Versus Jewel is going to be very important because customers are not buying in bulk. So they're going to be visiting every week, every 2 weeks. And so again, if they're not coming to you, they're going somewhere else. So the key performance indicator as far as frequency, the number of visits a customer makes to the store every month, is more important. It's a critical success factor for Jewel, but it's not critical to the success of Costco. Now, key performance indicators go by many different names. And again, it can be called key success factors, performance targets, and such, but they all are the same things, are indicators of some type of performance that's important to the organization and important to the overall organization's goals. Now, there are many different types of key performance indicators. They mainly fall into 4 categories. The first one is operational. So operational deals with the processes of you actually performing that service or producing that product for your end user or end customer. So for example, in a manufacturing plant, it would be maybe output per employee. For a customer service type organization, it might be wait time per call. So how long did that customer wait on the phone for you to answer their call? For a nonprofit, it could be applications received for assistance services, or it could be volunteer percentage of total staff versus paid employees. Those are all operational in nature. For people key performance indicators, some examples could be customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, employee turnover. So how happy are those employees? Why are they leaving? Customer retention. And then for nonprofits, it could be volunteer satisfaction. How satisfied are these volunteers working for this nonprofit? For marketing, it could be response rates to advertising. So if I put an ad in the newspaper, what is my response rate? Was I expecting to get 500 responses but only got 200? Then my key performance indicator is flagging that something's wrong. It could be for social media, the engagement level. So if I have a Facebook page, how engaged is my audience to what I'm posting? How are my responses coming through? For a nonprofit, it could be the percent of supporters who are active. So you might have a huge support base, but maybe only a small percentage of those are active. So a key performance indicator that will be important is to increase that number of supporters who are active. And the final one, which we're going to focus on today, is financial key performance indicators. And these will be really helpful in setting your financial goals for your organization, because financial key performance indicators are going to be the ones that really push the profitability of your organization. So they're going to be something centered around sales or revenue or profitability. Now for nonprofits who are not profitability focused, then it'll be more focused around fundraising or administrative costs as a percent of each dollar donated. So those would be the key performance indicators that you would focus on. So now that we have a better understanding of what key performance indicators are and what type of key performance indicators are out there, we are going to understand better why these key performance indicators are important. They're an important part of your planning process, so they should be part of that because it helps you direct the planning process. It helps you identify the trends that are impacting the success of your business. It'll help you improve decision making from the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization, because everyone in the organization will know what is important by you publishing and communicating what the key performance indicators of the business are. Also, which is the most important feature of key performance indicators, they can alert you when something's wrong in your organization. And they can alert somebody, again, from the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization, because they know what's important and what is being measured. So let's go through an example. We're familiar with Borders bookstores who filed for bankruptcy last year. And one of their key performance indicators was the stock out of the products they had available for customers to buy. Well, for Borders, it took them 16 weeks to actually stock product that was hot or sold out. But their main competitor, who's still in business today, it only took them 2 to 3 days. So if Borders was properly using their key performance indicators, they would have been able to change their processes in order to alleviate that problem, having stockouts and losing customers. So that's how key performance indicators can help. Another example is a wholesale distribution company. that from year over year, from 2010 to 2011, their sales declined. The owner knew that something was wrong but couldn't put her finger on it. She assumed, because she didn't really look at the data that was available and put it in a format where she could look at trends, which key performance indicators help you do, she assumed that it was due to certain employees not performing as well because she has shifted her focus to focus on other things within the organization instead of managing as much the employee. But once we actually analyzed the data and looked at everything that was going on, it was not that the employees were underperforming. They were actually overperforming. Their sales had actually increased. It was actually due to the owner, who used to be responsible for a big portion of the sales, shifting her focus. And so those clients who weren't happy because they weren't getting the same level of customer service they had gotten in the past went elsewhere. But if key performance indicators were put in place as part of the planning process, the owner would have known this early on and would have been able to shift these customer service capabilities to other employees to manage that employee relationship and would not have a decline in sales. So I say all this is to say that key performance indicators need to be taken seriously, and they should be an integral part of your planning process. Tracking is work, but it's important. You can't do it halfway. Now let's go through the steps of how to create key performance indicators. And we're going to go through these steps by using an example later, but just an overall overview of what the steps are in creating key performance indicators. So the first step is to tie it to the overall goal of the organization. So if your goal of the organization is to increase profitability, your key performance indicators need to be aligned with that goal. And again, you're going to have more than one goal for your organization. But we're just going to go through one example as we go through our presentation. Step 2 is to know your key business drivers. So what's going to drive the success of that profitability example or the success of the fundraising? What are those business drivers that contribute to that overall goal? Step 3 is to make sure the key performance indicators are meaningful. You don't want to measure something that's not going to have an impact on your bottom line. Step 4 is to make sure that key performance indicators are measurable. Step 5 is to set measurement dates that make sense for that key performance indicator. And step 6 is to have the right tracking tools in place. So again, we're going to use a fictional example of a food manufacturer, Feltis Manufacturing. Feltis Manufacturing makes breakfast food. So their key financial goals for the overall organization is to increase or stabilize their cash flow, to increase or stabilize their sales and revenue, to reduce or stabilize their employee expenses, or reduce or stabilize their non-employee expenses. So what that means is they want to become more profitable by either increasing their revenue or reducing their expenses, and in turn also having better collection activities to increase their cash flow. So given these financial goals, we're going to select one that we're going to focus on for this presentation. So for Feltis Manufacturing, the one financial goal we're going to focus on is increasing profits by 10%. So our overall goal is increasing profits by 10%, and profit is basically a function of revenue less expenses. So we either have to increase our profits or we have to reduce our expenses. That's how we're going to drive that 10% profit increase. So now that we know what our overall goal for the organization is, what are our key business drivers in order to drive that increase in profits? That's what step 2 is all about. And again, we have to be serious about these key business drivers. We need to talk to everyone in the organization, from customer-facing employees to employees on the production line to senior management, to really get an understanding of what is driving the profits of this business. Again, if you're in a nonprofit and you're doing fundraising, what is driving those fundraising dollars? You really have to get underneath it and understand it. You need to look at the data that you do have available to get a better understanding of what is going on. Now, looking at key business drivers for Feltis Manufacturing, again, it's a food manufacturer. One of the important things that they look at is the utilization rates of machinery. So when the machinery is in use, are they using it 90% of the time, 100% of the time? That's really important to their business to get the most efficient use out of that machinery. Because the more that they are able to use the machinery, the less the costs are because they are more efficient. The less they're able to use that machinery, the less they're getting out of it and the less profitable they are. So that's a big driver of their profits. Another is the percent defective batches or units that are produced whenever there is production. So if the more quality product that they produce that is not defective, the more profitable they will be. The cost of goods sold, or COGS, is basically all the inputs into. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you now. It was just silent for a minute.
The cost of goods sold is basically all the inputs to producing that manufactured product. So basically your overhead, your labor, your materials. But also, if you can look at cost of goods sold for a nonprofit or a service industry, as basically if I was a hospital and I was performing heart surgery, what is the cost to actually provide that service? So it's going to be the inputs are going to be the doctor and the nurses, labor hours, as well as the materials and the room and the cost of using that operating room. All that's going to be part of that cost of goods sold. For a nonprofit, it's going to be the cost of actually servicing that client. So someone at the front desk to actually greet and fill out the application, and actually the person who actually sits down and gets to know the client and understand their situation. All those are inputs into providing that service. The next thing that's important to Celtics manufacturing is pricing. So the competitor pricing and their pricing impacts their profits. And then sales force costs, and that is more related to the ability for the sales force to be able to expand the product into retailer shelves, either new retailers or established retailers they already have business with, and increase how much they are using the product. So they determine are the major key business drivers for the profitability of Celtics manufacturing. But even though these are key business drivers, should they all be financial key performance indicators? And I would say no. And the reason is because key performance indicators, you need to be able to influence the outcome. And that's why you're tracking the key performance indicator, because you want to be able to have the ability to take action sooner than later to be able to have a positive impact on your business. Now, for cost of goods sold, for labor, for operating costs such as materials, that's usually a long-term contract that's already been signed. It's not something that you can, in the short term, have any influence over. Competitor prices and your pricing is something that you usually can't have control over either. I mean, like Amazon.com is a huge retailer, but you have no control over their pricing. You really only have control over your pricing. And your pricing, you usually have little pricing power, because unless you're the big person or big company within that field or industry. For example, Apple Computers has a big advantage over its competitors because it has a lot of pricing power, because people really love the product and design, and they're usually ahead of their competitors. Now, sales force costs also are not something that's easily controllable, because sales force are usually in place for a long period of time. A lot of investment has went into developing that sales force and those sales force relationships. So I would say all those have in common are not controllable, so they would not be good key performance indicators. And what will be good of the other key drivers that will be good key performance indicators are the utilization rates of machinery. Again, that's something that's critical to the organization's success, and also in the short term, you can take action to have a profitable impact on the business. And the same thing with percent of defective units. You can also, if there's quality issues, you can actually stop the line and figure that out in the short term and have a positive impact on your business. So again, selecting meaningful drivers means something that is controllable, that's something in the short term that can impact positively your business. Now, for nonprofits, again, something that you could have influence over in the short term is your fundraising and the number of clients served. So that would be good key financial drivers for the business, for a nonprofit, and something that you can turn into a key performance indicator. Now, for Celtics manufacturing, the utilization rates of machinery, for them, 80% utilization rates of the machinery is where they are today. So that means anything above 80% utilization rate will increase their profit. So that will help them reach that 10% increase in profit growth. Anything that's below 80%, when it falls,
I think we went silent here for a second. Kim, are you there? I'm going to go ahead and just hold on for 1 second as we try to figure out what's going on with the phone. And
Hear me?
yep, we're back on.
Okay, sorry, I got disconnected. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
So we had stopped and we're talking about utilization rates of machinery for Celtics manufacturing. So for them, the 80% is optimal, that's where they are now. So any increase in the utilization rate above 80% would make them more profitable and help them reach that goal of an increase in 10% in profits. Anything lower than 80%, if it drops, would hurt their profitability. The same with percent of defective units. They are right now at 5% of everything that they produce is defective. So anything above 5% will actually hurt their profits. But if they're able to reduce the percent of defective units below 5%, then they're going to be able to increase their profits. And so that would help them form a key performance indicator. So now that we understand our overall goal, which is to increase profits by 10%, went through our controllable financial key drivers, we want to make sure that the key performance indicators that we selected are measurable, because you can't improve what you don't measure. So for Celtics manufacturing and most companies, financial key performance indicators should be trackable, because there should be some type of system where you're tracking financial data. So if you have the right system or process, you should be able to track everything. The key is to making sure that you track everything at the right level for it to be useful to the organization. Because if you track everything at too high of a level, you really can't make any sense out of it, and it's really not going to help you figure out what actually is wrong. So you should track whatever you have by individual, team, or shift, by department, by service or product. So for Celtics manufacturing, they are their two key performance indicators they're going to track. The first one, machinery utilization, by product. So it's going to be their products, again, they're breakfast cereal, so it's going to be oatmeal, cold cereal, and snack bars. But for percent of defective units, they're going to track that by department, manufacturing and packaging. And the reason they did this is because the machinery that they're using may be different or may have change-ups. So there's definitely different processes involved with each product that they're manufacturing. And then also with defective units, the process for manufacturing and packaging is different. So that's why they selected to do their key performance indicators in this format. Now, step 5, you need to consistently measure. So you need to determine for your business what makes sense. Is it weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually? It just depends on your goals and how sensitive those goals are to change. So, for example, if I am a nonprofit and I'm doing fundraising, that was something I would probably measure weekly or monthly because it's very sensitive to the outputs I put out there, from the advertising that I do, for the calls I do to supporters. That's something that I can see immediate response to, so it's very sensitive. For a manufacturing plan, if I'm producing something, I might look at it weekly because, again, it's very sensitive to change and production cycles and to weather and everything that can impact the demand for your product. So that would be something I would look at weekly. Something that I maybe would only measure quarterly, semi-annually, or annually would be customer satisfaction, client satisfaction, employee satisfaction. But that's more of a long-term relationship, and it's not going to change more positive or more negative overnight unless something major happens. So I would say that's less sensitive to change. But you must consistently measure in order to be able to figure out what the key performance indicator is telling you. So for step 5, again, consistently measuring those key performance indicators, you're not just going to do it one time. So in this case, because their key performance indicators are very sensitive, they're only tracking it monthly. But in this case, we're going to look at month 1 and month 3. So machinery utilization, again, remember, our optimal level is 80%. If we go above 80%, we're going to increase our profits. If we go below 80%, we're going to be less profitable. And that's what's happening with oatmeal production and our machinery utilization. In month 1, we were right on track, but in month 3, we fell below 80%, so now we're less profitable. That's a key performance indicator. That triggers that from management and production employees, hey, we need to look at this closer and figure out what's going on. For cold cereal, they went from 75% to 95%, so now all of a sudden cold cereal is more profitable to the organization. And then for snack bars, they stay relatively flat. I mean, it is a small reduction, but still it's not as profitable as it could be because we want everything to be 80% or above. So now step 6 is looking at the right reporting tools for your organization. You must have the right systems and processes. It must be timely, it must be accurate, and it must be user-friendly. And a lot of times people will put key performance indicators in place, but they don't have the right tracking tools, or it's too complicated, or it takes too much time to produce the report. That is a problem. You want it to be timely, accurate, and user-friendly. So if you're able to produce these reports, you don't want to take a whole month to produce a report on your key performance indicators. You want to use the systems you have in place to make it as user-friendly as possible. Because if it's not user-friendly and it's not timely or accurate, then it's not going to be used, and it's a waste of time. So going back to the example of the machinery utilization rate, what are Celsius's options on these key performance indicators? If they have oatmeal from month 1 to month 3 who reduced their utilization rate, which makes them less profitable, what could they possibly do? Same thing with cold cereal. Now it's improving, and snack bars is not improved at all, and it's stayed pretty static. How can they improve that? Should they change production cycles so now that the machinery utilization rate could go up for oatmeal? So instead of producing a whole bunch in month 3, maybe they produce it in month 1 because now their machinery utilization will go up. There's so many options, but at least with the key performance indicators, it provides you the information to start investigating and making decisions. And that's really, it's not going to provide you the answer, but it's going to help you lead you in the right direction to find the right answer. So the options for focused manufacturing going on with their oatmeal, cold cereal, and snack bar machinery utilization, again, it can be changed production cycles, it could be buy new machinery so it's more efficient, but they also have one more option, and it's kind of like a trick question. If we look at month 1 being January, usually the coldest month, and month 3 being March, the spring, of course oatmeal utilization rates will go down because now you're not producing as more because the demand is not there. Because in January, people want to eat more oatmeal, and in March, people want to eat more cold cereal. And the reason that I highlighted this is the fact that key performance indicators are a whole group of indicators, not just one single thing, not one magic bullet. You have to have key performance indicators for multiple items in order for you to be successful in your organization. So you can't tie everything to one key performance indicator. So again, here's a summary of steps that we went through. And then in summary, the key performance indicators are determined by your overall company goals. So whatever you decide as an organization that's critical, those overall company goals, your key performance indicators should be a function with that and align with that. So the key drivers of your business should be the key performance indicators. But these key drivers need to be able to influence the outcome. You need to be able to measure on a regular basis, and you need to be able to have an impact on the company. But overall, financial key performance indicators are only one piece of the puzzle.
Hey, Kim, I just wanted to, before you get into the proper questions, a lot of our participants here are either small business development centers, a few different businesses, and as well as training providers. So I'm just curious, and I see that Mark wrote yes, yes, yes. For all of you on the webinar, what would you say, for instance, for your department or for your unit, what would you measure? And is it how many job postings you did? Is it how many people you placed within industry? What are some of the things that are measured on your end that you can keep track? And unfortunately, with WIA, we all have funding, so it's not, we don't have finances to to even play with, or whatnot, because it's all formula funds. But I'm curious just to throw that question out there as we go through the questions for the stuff you've covered. So if anybody wants to chime in. Anybody? Okay, I'm going to switch over to Q&A.
So given what you said, one thing that's important for companies or nonprofits that don't, outside of fundraising from a financial perspective, is their budget. I mean, every department usually has a budget. So you can use that as your key performance indicator about over or above budget or reducing budget.
Mm-hmm. And also another thing with training providers and workforce is we have a certain amount that we have to use for your actual training dollars, and so that's another thing, right? It's how much staff time or how many staff people can you bring on, or are you going to have to take off to be able to provide these services? So
Right. So in that case, if you have, let's say, $100,000 for training, you want to track as a key performance indicator that percent of goal achieved. And again, key performance indicators, you're doing it over time. So, you shouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if you're tracking this key performance indicator that you went over budget or you didn't use all your budget. You're having this mad dash at the end of the year trying to figure out what you're going to do.
right. Now, what about for those, like the small business development centers? What kind of things do you think would come up for your members, or, for instance, within manufacturing or within IT? What are the things that do you think maybe they struggle with most when it comes to their indicators? If anybody wants to add that on. So I see that everybody is filling in the chat pods, and please let us know rate the webinar and let us know how we're doing. This is a way for us to make sure that we're staying relevant within the topics that you like and that are important to you and the people you provide services for your businesses or your product, as well as the information that we've added below. So let us know your industry, your business, and kind of the breakdown of your employees, and then the type of information you'd like to have in the future. And so if you want to, also we have an upcoming webinar as well to continue as part of the three-part session. So Kim, if you want to give them an idea of what that's going to be.
So the next webinar is going to focus on people key performance indicators. And so people is basically the people within the organization, the employees, the staff, the contractors, and the clients being serviced. And then people also deals with external people, which could be vendors, contractors, as well as, let's just say clients are really external. So anything that deals with people is going to be key performance indicators around that. So it's going to be customer and employee satisfaction, anything that impacts those people, the services and products, how happy are people with that, and just trying to get indicators on how you're doing that.
And especially within the public sector, people is such a big chunk of the budget, and so I think it'd be really interesting to see how effective we can help people kind of become within their organization or within their business. So, alrighty, well, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to thank you for your participation, and you have the PowerPoint in your email and as a follow-up, and you also have Kim's information in there if you need to ask her questions or if there's something more detailed that you'd like to cover. I will send a follow-up email to everyone with the meeting, with the webinar overview and where you can access the archived webinar on Illinois WorkNet. So that will get posted sometime within the beginning of next week. So with that said, have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you. And thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Bye.